I need my computer. All set to go.
When I was a little boy, we traveled by dog team, and we traveled all the time because we were always in search of some wildlife, because that's the way we lived. We lived by hunting and fishing. We would stop at night, and my father would build an igloo, and then we would bring all our stuff inside. My mother and my grandmother, who traveled with us, would set up the bedding, and after we had something to eat, we'd all go to bed. And of course, we didn't have any televisions or anything like that, you know, so the only entertainment we got was from people telling stories to us. All my life, I heard all these wonderful stories.
Michael Arvaarluk remembers the stories he heard when he was young. He has now written many books for children and likes to travel all across Canada, telling his stories in schools and libraries.
My grandmother told us that you can tell a story with string. And she told us a story about a whale. This whale is not very smart. And one day the stupid whale decides it is going to show off, and it swims really, really, really fast. It swims so fast that it goes zooming right up on the beach, and it can't get back in the water. And you know what happens to a whale that can't get back in the water? Yeah, and you know what really loves dead whales? Along came a seagull. Here's the seagull, and this seagull comes along and it eats the flippers off this dead whale. And it eats a lot of the skin. The skin is called makta, and that's what seagulls really, really like. And then along came a polar bear. And here's the polar bear. Here's the head of the polar bear up here. This is the nose. These are the front legs down here. And this is the back, and the back legs are over here, and they like to just sort of look around like this. And you notice this polar bear is really skinny. That's because this polar bear is really hungry, and this polar bear eats up all the meat from this dead whale. But you know, nothing is ever wasted, because along comes a little fox. And there's the little fox. And the little fox comes and it cleans up all the bones from this dead whale, and then the little fox walks away. And that's my story about the whale.
Michael Kusagak lives in Rankin Inlet, Northwest Territories. His stories tell about life in the Arctic and the magical Inuit creatures that live there. He started writing his stories down after a visit by another children's storyteller, Robert Munch.
At night, after we had dinner, we'd sit around the dining room table and we would talk. You know, he would tell us stories and I would tell him stories. And one day he said, "Why don't you write those stories down, you know, and we'll see if we can get them published." I sent it down and it was rejected. But then Bob and I got together and we rewrote it, you know, a number of times, and then we had it published, and that's how, you know, the story came about.
This book started Kusagak on his career as a children's writer and storyteller. It's based on a memory from his childhood.
In the spring, the sod huts began to drip, you know, when the snow began to melt, long before the sea ice went. And of course, the snow softened, and the igloos would cave in. And when your igloo caved in, you went out and you put up a tent, and that's what you lived in all summer. Especially in the spring, you know, when the ice was breaking up along the shore, it was really dangerous for kids to be down there because it was always unstable with the tides going up and down. My parents always said, you know, don't you go down there or Kadlupidlop will put you on her back and take you down under and never bring you back.
In Inuit legend, the Kayupiliwit are old women who live under the sea ice. They look like witches and are very scary. They wear large hooded coats called amautis. The hoods of these coats are used to carry the children they capture. They don't have children of their own, so they like to take any who wander by. In A Promise is a Promise, the Kayupiliwit try to take a little girl called Alashwa when she comes too near the cracks in the ice. Michael Kusagak works closely with illustrator Vladiana Krikorka to plan the pictures for his books. Together, they create the imaginary Inuit creatures, such as the Kayupiliwit and the Irak, that appear in his stories.
This creature has to look something like a ptarmigan in the summer because ptarmigans, you know, are very, very hard to see. I have a vision of this creature looking somewhat like a ptarmigan, but also, you know, it has to have some kind of human features because he's got to be able to play with this animal, whatever it is. And I think you know...
This is too much like a bird.
Yeah, this is too much like a bird. You know,
It has to have a human feet.
Yes.
So...
You know, something like that.
Yeah.
Or would be nice. I, you know, quite like some of the other faces.
But the body is not right.
Yeah.
So you want a straight...
Yeah. And I like, you know, I like the hands and the feet of this.
Yeah.
When Alashua was looking for a place to hide, she came upon a nest of tiny baby birds. The baby birds lifted their tiny beaks up to her and chirped, "Cheep, cheep, cheep." And from somewhere behind her, Alashua heard some whistling and a tiny voice singing, "Hide and sneak, how I love to hide and sneak." Alashua looked around, but there was no one there. There were rocks and flowers and old squat ducks on a lake, but they weren't whistling or singing. She scratched her head and went back to the little birds. She puckered up her lips again to talk to them, but behind her, there was the little voice again. "Hide and sneak, how I love to hide and sneak. I hide and you seek, you won't find me for a week." Alashua looked around. She looked and looked, and finally, behind a big rock, she found a tiny little man. He was dressed in a fur coat that looked like ptarmigan feathers in summer. His brown legs were bare, and he had nothing on his feet at all. Like a ptarmigan in summer, he was very hard to see. Alashua knew she'd met an Irak, a hide-and-seek creature. To get inspiration for his books, Kusagak likes to travel out to his cabin.
My cabin is a really, really wonderful place. It's about 10 miles out of Rankin Inlet, and I go out there, and it's really quiet, and there's all kinds of wildlife around there. There are lots of geese and ducks in the winter. There are always lots of caribou, you know, around. And I went there this winter with one of my sons, and the whole area around my cabin was littered with so many caribou all over the place. And when we got there, of course, they all ran away. There were caribou droppings 2 feet from my front step, you know. And there are all these little ground squirrels. There are all kinds of them. They're called siksiks, and they're very tame as long as you don't have a dog around. I like to try and spend as much time as I can, you know, in a place like that, because when you write for children, you have to draw on some things that you knew when you were little. And there are a lot of things that don't change over time, like seasons, and what they do to the landscape have always been constant, you know, from the time I was little to now. When I was little, we loved to play ball, but it was always so hard to find a bat, because we had a very small store, a Hudson Bay Company store, that only, you know, basically sold goods for the people, like, you know, the flour and sugar and pablum and, you know, whatever. And they didn't really have time to bring in a lot of toys, so they brought in all these rubber balls that we used to play ball with, but they never brought in any bats. So we used to wander around, you know, looking for anything that would do for a bat, and then, you know, these Christmas trees came, and of course we didn't know what they were, because we'd never ever seen a Christmas tree before, until my friend Ivo said, "I know what those things are for, baseball bats," you know.
When the kids in Repulse Bay found out about our bat, they all came to play. Ivo batted first, with Peter pitching and Arvaarluk playing catcher. Sometimes when he hit the ball just right, even Arvaarluk could run all the way around and touch all 4 bases before Jack had time to get the ball and hit him with it to take him out. We played ball all that spring and all that summer, making more bats with the spindly trees when they broke.
When I started writing, I really wanted to share some of the things that my parents shared with us when we were little. We were always told about the Northern Lights and about what they are. And our people say that when you die, your soul goes up into the heavens, and on a clear moonlit night, all those people up there like to go out and have a good time too. And what they like to do is they like to play soccer.
Katajak's grandmother liked to come out and watch the people play soccer. And one night, when Katajak was feeling very sad and lonely, her grandmother told her a story. "People die," she said, "and when they die, their souls leave their bodies and go up into the heavens, and there they live. The thousands of people who have passed before us all live up there in the sky. When they were on earth, they too liked to play soccer, and even though they no longer live among us, they still like to play. So, on a clear moonlit night, they go out in the giant field up there and play soccer. You can see them, thousands of them, all running around, chasing their soccer ball all over the sky." "Is my mother up there?" Katajak asked her grandmother. "Of course she is," her grandmother replied. Katajak watched the Northern Lights play their game for a long time. She thought she could see her mother running around with all of them up there. She seemed to be having a good time. As her mother turned to run, Katajik thought she saw her smile down. Katajik was glad her mother had not gone away at all. She was not so lonely anymore. It made her feel so much better.
Adults should listen more to kids. When I was a little boy, we traveled around by dog team, and at night when we went to bed, it was the kids who said, "Grandmother, please tell me a story." And, you know, that's the way it starts. I think everyone has a story. And the stories don't have to be, you know, the traditional legends. They don't have to be, you know, the Little Red Riding Hood or the Three Little Pigs or anything like that. They can be something about Christmas, you know, some Christmas you remember. Or, you know, you can make them up. They can be about any experience that you've had. Everybody I know of has had some experiences that are worth relating, and that's a wonderful thing about storytelling, is that, you know, once you start, the possibilities are endless. The airplane tipped its right wing and flew in a big circle. It came down and landed with a splash into the sea. The airplane gently beached itself in front of the Hudson's Bay Company store. The pilot jumped off and tied the other end of the rope to a big rock on the beach. The wave seemed much bigger than when we were on land. Arvaarluk thought the airplane did not make a very good boat, and it smelled of gasoline. The left-hand pilot shoved a lever on the dashboard all the way forward. The engine got louder and louder. We started moving faster. The doors shook. Arvaarluk thought it was going to fall off. Water splashed on the windows. A metal pail with a pouring spout fell over with a loud clap.